Hey, it's Chris. What are we talking about today? Crowdfunding roundup. Side note here at the beginning. Two things. One, I figured out a way to do those reaction videos that I was talking about last week on the roundup, talking about reactions to other content on the web. Hopefully you'll like it. First one's going to be coming out this week. Also, unpopular opinions, part 2. Oh yeah, I have like 3 or 4 unpopular opinions total right now filmed, and you're going to love it. You're going to love it if you like to see me angry rant. Okay, it's the beginning of the November onslaught, right? This is by far and away the slowest week. That being said, still a couple games that I was interested in, and still a couple games that I had on my radar, like Western Legends Stories here. $200,000 is still $200,000. We're starting over on Kickstarter this week. 1,600 people. It's open world sandbox-ish. Take 2 actions on your turn of the dynamic, explorative, engaging actions that its marketing fluff is telling you that's going to be enthralling for you. But the problem is, when you look at this page, well, I mean, there's not really a whole lot on the page. But you know what? Again, you can get your expansion with the deluxe content as a whole. But when we look at these pledge levels as a second, we're just going straight down to it instead of the actual mechanic covering first. $75 gets you a stretch goal expansion pack. An additional $45, what are you paying in that $45 though? That's where I'm going to point this out, right? Is this stuff you want? A dice tower, cloth bags, a little bit of story card, whatever the stretch goal is there, a notebook, and a solo mode. Maybe the solo mode is the only thing, but if the solo mode is the make it or break it on this open world explorative, like sort of action-based game, right? Solo mode, that's a lot of money to be paying extra for a solo mode, right? And then we get down to the stretch goals, expansion pack, right? It's all pre-planned, it looks like, right? They're all going to be just simple unlocks on a daily basis. Say they're unlocks, but they're really just, somehow separated out to make you feel like you're getting more engaging from that side of things. So, yup. And then in the deluxe pledge, guess what? Guess what? You can get a sleeve that's super hard to get back on. That's me in a nutshell right there. I was trying to get the Everdell one back on the other night, and that's annoying. So that's the social stretch goal. We'll see what else they've got in store. Other languages, I guess. And if we go down here to the turn breakdown, that's where I was joking, right? This is the engaging aspect of things, the experience, the immersiveness, the miniatures that I'm not sure you're going to be able to make out the details of. Move your character, draw more cards, interact with the location you're at, or play a poker card for special actions. So the narrative engine, the dynamic gameplay, the emergent story. Emergent. And the definition of emergent is in the process of becoming preeminent or massive, right? I'm not sure any storytelling in any board game is actually emergent, right? Anyway, sorry. Combat, though, you're using your values of your poker cards as well as a dice-based color system as you explore all of these maps, unlock them, get new places to, interact with, and more things to develop at these locations as a whole. I don't know, right? Like, I look at this and I go, I love the idea of miniatures, but more and more gray plastic blobs on maps like this where, again, the thematic incorporation doesn't even suit me. I guess for each their own. And so this is what you're going to be getting, including the extra little scenarios here that you can save in little bags between them. And this is the other issue I guess I have, right? As an open world explorative, it's sort of like if anyone said to you that this was going to be area control style game. Hey, would you want to play an area control style game with 3 other bots? Right? It's fine. But again, this makes the argument that I don't think every game has to be for every player count, because you're going to be playing this with up to 3 other bots to go along with it. Does that excite you? I play a lot of these games, or at least these multiplayer games. Like, if you want to play solo games as a solo player, I have no qualms about that, right? You're playing it as a challenge, but you play it as a challenge against the game, not necessarily like bot. And bots always leave a different taste in my mouth, if you will. And unfortunately, there's just a first look here from Man vs. Meeple. Even if you click on the Board Game Geek page, there's no other videos, there's no files, so I'm not really sure what else you can do when they say rules, previews, and reviews. Really, it's just preview single tense, no rules whatsoever, single or multi-tense, and no reviews. Again, I don't mind it, but if you're going to put it on Tabletop Simulator, give me something on the page. Those comments up above with these scenarios and campaigns, right? There is absolutely no way to tell that any of this is going to be good. Storytelling is a total and utter crapshoot on board games and should be the last reason you're backing games, because most of the 400,000 words or the dynamic choose your own adventures are, I guess I would say, middling writing at best. At best. And so when I see this, right, the engine that you're doing, you're just flipping over cards and having stuff happen. What does that mean? Locations, characters, narrative, right? Interconnected web, unexpected consequences. Are you going to be able to go back? Can you replay it? Some of this stuff, again, I just look at this and I go, that's fine. But it sort of reminds me in a different way of Sublime Dark, which just finished. And they were like, you know what? Not going to show you anything, and that's on purpose. This is like, I'm not going to show you anything, and I think also that's on purpose. So I guess the concept is there, but I also have this written as, well, try before you buy more than anything else, sort of like a King's Dilemma when they came back around with Queen's Dilemma. So $200,000 though is still $200,000. Give it a look-see. Then $100,000 again. Vanguard Normandy, World War II, sort of like a more skirmish bag pulling style of game, mission-based, line of sight issue skirmish, if you will. And don't worry, you can get a 3 from 4 player box separated from the 1 to 2 player box. Deluxe miniatures to go along with this. I mean, it's kind of cool with this mixing matching setup. I'll give them kudos. Your asymmetric factions, as they talk about, each unit on each side of the war or the battle is going to be different in terms of how you're going to be utilizing them, building up your resources, getting requisition. Earn that through the control of the battlefield strategic points, which will allow you to draft and acquire more types of units to place on your board. And you're going to have 5 levels of supplies that you're slowly utilizing and being able to bring to the field in order to get those, units in the first place. So what you're doing, though, on a turn-by-turn basis is you're pulling these tokens that I mentioned from the bag, activating one of said units, and perform any number of actions that it's available to you. The dice-based system is a little bit funky. They give you an example down here. They talk about, once we get past the solo gameplay and the sky, because as you're knocking things out victory point-wise, the events are going to change based on the weather that's going to go along with it, because, that was a big thing back then. Weather and what happened that way affected the conditions of the battlefield. Stretch goals, but where I was going with this, apart from the preview rulebook here, is the dice-based combat, and I guess I must have passed it, but it's like, okay, roll the dice, and certain vehicles with the number of dice that you're going to be rolling are going to be immune to certain other numbers or numbers up to a certain point based on what you roll. You can kind of see there, right? But it's like pluses and minuses and stars, and that's sort of what you got going on. So skirmish World War II, do you want it? I mean, it seems fine, but I guess I'd also make the wager as a non-skirmish, especially seeing lots of these other games or being aware, just adjacent, a lot of other skirmish style World War whatever games. Is this one going to be different for you? Well, give it a look-see. Check out the rulebook. There you go. Then we're going over here to GameFound, and we have Dungeon Universalis, the expansion Infinite Quests. I was actually, when I clicked on this, expecting this to have a ton more money, because this is one of those games that when people play it, or the people that love it, abso-freaking-lutely love it as one of the most immersive, most sets of mechanistic approach to a dungeon crawl, keeping track of all of the stuff that you would love, standees, bestiaries, map cards, everything else alongside of it. It's an expensive game, though, truth be told. And there's a lot of stuff that's come out previously with this one as well. I'm not the best person to tell you what the difference is, but just that you're going to get more tiles, more places, more campaigns, random map generator with this one too. So I'd say, and I'd make the argument with this one, is this one doesn't suffer from a lack of stuff. So this almost seems like the whipped cream and the cherry on top of banana cream pie, banana split sundae in the first place. So do you really need more? And I guess if you really love it, maybe the answer is yes, but also, what's your saturation point for this in terms of just more characters, more enemies, and more everything else in terms of tiles and all those lines, right? I know people love it. So, these videos I'm sure are going to tell you this is one of the best from that aspect of things, right? Right here. That's what I was kind of referring to. It is the closest thing to an RPG that you can get. And if you listen to Game Brigade here, he uses my famous words, lifestyle game. I get myself in trouble every time I say that. I sort of joke around with that, but you know, if you really want to give this a look-see, I'm not summarizing the mechanistic approach any further because this rule book here is 125 pages. 125 pages. You can also check out the campaign in the quest book. And as they say on the campaign page, they have a lot of the other stuff available so that you can get some of the other stuff. I believe it's set up here at the top, actually. Some of the stuff that you had previously right here from the other campaigns with standees 1 and 2, more tiles, complete collection and PDF, and then the bestiary. So you can a la carte it there a little bit. Some of the stuff as well as available over here on their website if you didn't have some of the previous products. So some of it is available here, some of it's available later, but a lot of it just is unavailable too in between. So I know it's pretty well snapped up on the secondary market when people do sell it, but this might be your best chance to get in if you're interested. Give it a look-see from Ludic Dragon. My kids are outside right now fighting. On to DNA, Habitopia, Synthesis board games. A trio from one of the designers of the previous, like, sort of, they did a water game and then a Planet Earth game. Eugene here, third crowdfunding campaign. These are all very much scientifically themed, and these are kind of little sleeper hits. None of them are like super like deep strategically, but they all seem like they've got some real just light style filler aspects going on in a unique way in all three of them. Now, you know what I'm going to tell you here, right? 3 games, 1 campaign. Free upgrades and expansions if you buy the all-in bundle, which you never, ever should do. And it's mostly just deluxifications, at least with DNA. Habitopia has a little bit of a mini expansion, and Synthesis, again, gets you a little bit of a mini quantum expansion. But all 3 of these games are dramatically different in how you're playing them. So let me skip down to the differences between the games, or the overviews, right? DNA right here. I like this. It gives me a little bit of a Cascadia vibe in the sense that you're drafting these tiles, placing them on the cards to almost do like a Habitats version of things. And then when you fill these cards up, they're going to give you asymmetric abilities in order to like sort of engine build. And then as you then fill them, you then get to place those patterns onto the hexes of the main board. I'm not sure exactly how you're doing that and in what way, but that's going to be worth more points if they match the color that they're going onto in the hexes in the first place. And again, I just think it's kind of nice. I'd like to see the dynamics a little bit more at play to see if it's for me, but I think I would say it's a nice light filler in that aspect. Habitopia here is a little bit of a different one because what you're going to be doing is you're going to be drafting one of these cards that are each going to be double-sided on your turn. And as they say, you're going to be drafting it either to the habitat side and the area on your board or to the fauna side. And as you can see, of the 5 different card types here, you're going to be having a variety of things that are going to be mixing, matching, creating again your sort of engine end game scoring, because that's what the 2 sides are. One is going to offer unique benefits, as we just mentioned, on the engine build. The other is going to offer more of the scoring side of things. And now this is the tricky part. They say up here in the description that there's going to be a clever auction system that you can introduce with the advanced mode if you want more than just the family mode that you can do with, say, my kids and just grab and pull and place. So I like the idea of this one as well too. I'd still say I'm probably a little bit more of a fan of this one, more in the engine build with DNA, but I think they're both doing something just kind of light, nice style from that aspect. Then the last one down here is Synthesis, and Synthesis is your roll-in, right, if you will. And the promise or premise of this game, I guess they are promising you it in the premise, that what you're doing here is you're rolling the red and the blue die. The red die allows you to manipulate what you're going to be drawing based on the blue die. And Synthesis here takes the chemical equation side of things, if you are familiar with just your chemistry in the undergrad or in general, where you're drawing bonds between these atoms, and you're essentially creating that based on the color that is chosen on a round by round basis in the form of the side of the die of the bond that is rolled. But the red allows you to manipulate or break those bonds to form different arrangements than what is just straightforward, some mitigation, if you will. And when you complete these hexes, then you put the number of sides based on what is most present of that color. And that's going to be how you're scoring, because you're also going to be scoring different places on the map, as well as having other objectives that you can have via the molecular project cards. The expansion here, the quantum expansion, gives you quantum tunnels and catalysts, whatever those are in terms of gameplay. So there's 1 or 2 videos on the page that'll give you more details. Maybe I missed it. I would just like to see a little bit more of a rule book on 1 or 2 of these, just so that I know exactly the dynamics on a turn-by-turn, round-by-round basis. I like the higher level overview. I love the aesthetic. But that's a lot of money as well for 3 games, $110 for light filler. So take that for what you will, but I can see easily why it's funded at this point. So give it a look-see. Now we're talking Epic Battle of Alesia. We're going with that pronunciation. Concepts based off of previous Avalon Hill war game style of things. $39,000. Oh, you want the tagline? You want the clever quip here? Yeah, you'll get it right now, because this game is a 3-foot by 4-foot map. This one's going to, well, take up even more than what you may be originally wanting. So it's like it says, 30 times the size of an iPad. I have no clue, right? This is your war game. It's a war game. It's, well, everything you'd expect from old school war games. It looks like an old school war game. I'm not exactly using that as a compliment there, but you know, again, I guess I'll say that if the gameplay holds up, who cares what the aesthetic looks like? Because I am a very fond person on this channel of saying that gameplay triumphs over all. How to play? You're going to read that. I'm not reading that. Okay, to be fair, it's only like 11 pages, so you can actually read this one. It's like a move, defend, sling your arrows, combat phase order of things as you're moving these troops across the board, trying to achieve different asymmetric win conditions. It's a heavy game, double-sized game board. Yeah, I'd say so. But I'll leave it up to you. The rulebook, like I mentioned, is not as heavy as I was expecting for a war game. So it's, you know, more streamlined and based off the concepts like they say. 2 to 6 hours though. I missed that part. There you go. I was going to call the last one Ugly as Sin, but speaking of sin, Devil's Dice. It's kind of BS the dice game, if you will. $4,000 of its $3,000 funding goal. The object is to get a set of the matching 6 symbols that you need. Each of these dice are going to give you different actions, and you start off with 2 dice in your pool, and you roll them hidden so that other people can't see what you've got, and you base your actions off of what dice you've rolled. But you can choose any action, because that's where the bluffing or lying portion of things comes in, is you can choose whatever you want to do because other people don't actually know. However, just like in BS, you can get challenged. And if you challenge and you win, you steal dice from other people potentially. If you challenge and you lose, other people may get to take your dice, or you may have to lose dice. And so the combination of these mechanics and these actions rolled in the first place are going to allow you to otherwise manipulate the same sort of said motions, get more dice, steal dice, block dice from being taken, etc. And so that's what you're going to be doing in a nutshell. So there you go, 10 minutes, 2 to 6 players, because you all just roll and go. Little action clarification here at the back of the rule book. They say, okay, these are the things you're going to be rolling and getting. Skull, getting skull tokens. Trident, getting skull tokens from another player. Paying 2 skull tokens to steal a die. Pentagram, re-rolling all the things in the pool. Flames, grab a skull token from the bank, then re-roll. And that's the other thing I guess I didn't mention, is that you don't re-roll unless you take an action that specifically allows you to do so, or if you challenge somebody else, or if you gain or lose a dice based off of said challenge. So otherwise your dice remain locked and you're a little bit more limited. So it's going to cause you to want to challenge other people. Otherwise, you're going to remain stagnant. So there you go. Devil's Dice. Good of a look-see. Then we're going Emergency Operations Center, the board game Wildfire Mayhem, based on a ultimate disaster response strategy from a real-life situation in 2012. Somehow, $137,000. I'm really shocked by this, but take that for what you will. I think it's a lot of industry people looking at it from like this professional side of things is what it appears, at least per the comment section. So what you're going to be doing essentially is trying to stop this wildfire, and you're going to be having units that you're going to be moving across the field of action with one of your different responder type groups that are provided in the game or within the expansions that are offered, even though there's like 2 or 3 to expand it even further. And each of your units basically gets 1 movement and 1 action per turn. The tokens themselves have 3 values on them: your strength value, your durability value, and your movement point value, if you will, or attack, defense, and movement, if you will. And so the attack is how you're going to be utilizing the events and the crises on the map as you move to them, and then roll a die in combination with the value that's going to be present on each individual token, and then you have to overcome it to then quench it or take care of it. And so then after a turn, you're doing the pandemic style, then draw an event card, which may be just a random something else going alongside of things. You're going to be having other things occur like this with the wildfire that are going to have mechanics that are going to expand or expound on what's there. And that's the events that I mentioned, the units that I mentioned, and the real life disaster that it's based on in the first place. So these are the crises that you're going to be having to overcome. As you can see, all of them have a number and a color that's associated with them. It shows you the expansion pack. So, I mean, it's expensive for what it is. I mean, it's truly indie, but, you know, is it going to be complex enough for you if you're looking for the more pandemic style? And yes, these are AI art pictures on the page. So, I mean, just don't even include them. Just make, you know, whatever else you can. It's expensive, right? The Ultimate Edition, $150, and it's a lot for what it is. And it's going to be $125 if you want to pre-order it right now, discounted. So the pre-order edition, though, is $59 as well. A lot of people are getting in on this. I'm really surprised at how much funding this has, but maybe this is just one of those things that strikes home to people. So if it is for you, give it a look-see. We're covering it. It's got $1,000. Illyriad Empires, grand strategy game based on an MMO that's online as well. So you can try it on Tabletop Simulator, which I would probably suggest, as you shuffle, choose your asymmetric race, and draw your cards. And this is the only semblance of the gameplay you're going to get, essentially, right here. Get your resources based on the tiles you control, play your cards, purchase new cards, spend them to get more troops, move your troops, and take care of combat with a dice-based system. A little bit of video gameplay demos right here, but that is literally everything else on the page. You can check out all their pages down here. So I guess, right, $1,000 is $1,000 from 12 people. So give it a look-see. Japanese game, only available in Japan. I thought it just looked cool. And it's got 50 grand. So that's a lot for a Japanese game there. So it's all in Japanese. It's all in Japanese. It just looks kind of cool. Standees on a grid-based map. No idea what's going on here. It's almost got the Halloween theme and colors, but right? You can look at it just as well as I do, but I just kind of like looking at it and seeing, but I don't know. I have a weak point for these things. On to the next game. Then hopping back over to game found here, $23,000, based on the fascinating life of Hiro Onoda. I'm going to mispronounce that, I'm sorry, but a Japanese intelligence officer who did guerrilla warfare for 30 years, not believing that World War II was ended. And so what you're going to be doing in sort of a Robinson Crusoe Friday vibe is you're going to be moving around from region to region over 6 rounds, trying to not be too paranoid and lose your mind or lose all your health as you do skill checks, missions, and actions in order to achieve enough mission victories in order to win the game. And so what you're going to be doing as you go along is you're going to be just taking one action on a turn-by-turn basis. And then as you're doing this, you're going to be putting alarms down in the areas in which you take the actions. And then when you do most of the actions, you're going to have to do a check to overcome the alarm, an alarm check essentially. And so what that means is then you pull a token from the bag and you see if the token number is higher than the number of alarms in that area. If it is, you succeed. If not, then you're going to take some paranoia points or you're going to lose some of your health, and you're going to rinse and repeat that over 6 rounds. Because over the 6 rounds, you can take as many actions as you want on a turn-by-turn basis, but you're going to have a harder and harder time overcoming as you go on. One of those actions, like I mentioned, is just going to be getting rice. You need rice to sustain yourself. One of those actions is to be doing the missions. One of those actions is going to be repairing to activate the objects in those sections. So they give you a little bit of an overview right here. Here's the alarm check that I mentioned. And there's enough gameplay playthrough that you can give a look-see as well from like One Stop Co-op Shop and Space Biff. So if you want little miniatures to go along with it, you can pay an extra $11. Otherwise, it's only going to cost you $25 before shipping. And don't worry, that is the lowest price in the last 30 days. Gosh, I hate that GameFound feature. So that's it, right? Exclusivity. If you really want, you can, well, just have it earlier than everybody else is essentially what it's doing. A little bit of extras there with the stretch goals and some of the stuff from previously, right? There you go. Historically based game and just a nice little solo game as a whole. Give it a look-see. It's well funded and it's doing really well. Things you thought you'd never see with 1,000, Alex, and that is the return of Super Dungeon Explorer. But this is actually an independent, standalone expansion content from, well, not Soda Pop Miniatures or Ninja Division. This is just an independent person who got permission to do it in some way, shape, and form, and they're going for funding. And this is $20,000 if it's 75, so it's got a long uphill battle, but they say they're just ready to print. They've got all the rules, the art, and the sculpting done of the miniatures, And if you want more Super Dungeon Explorer, they're offering you a way to get in as a standalone game with this, to mix match in some of the stuff you otherwise have, or to give you new raid experiences in 3 different raid boxes, if you want to call them more missions, that are going to have progressions in each individual one in order to have more of a story narrative if you like that style of things. And there are tier 1, tier 2, and a tier 3 that you can venture through. They're giving you 3 different pledge levels. If you're new like me and you wouldn't have any of the Super Dungeon Explorer, this is going to allow you to play everything that you would like from the get-go. If you have some of the previous stuff and you want to mix match, you can do the returning hero. Or if you want everything new, including all 3 of the big ones, then it's going to be another $199. You can add some of the individual stuff it looks like that they maybe put out previously with some of the heroes here as well. Individually, whatever you want from that aspect. A few stretch goals from social side of things. And they give you a little bit of why back now as well. What do you need? What do you want? And what is it entailing here? And again, the mix matching, the renewed and the upgradable, and the swapping out of some stuff if you don't have it for some of the stuff that you may have. They run you through the 3 different raid boxes here from the missions, and a little bit of a vague description of some of the enemies you're going to be going up against, and a little bit of more of the in-depth what the heroes are as a whole. So one video here if you want to check it out, and a little explanation further of what they are and what they aren't. But there you go, Plague Throne, right? 20 grand. Wow. It's impressive though. I'm not sure it's going to fund, but we'll see where it goes. Okay, we're going to give a shout out to Ben here. Cornered the board game, $600, $2,000 funding goal. And you know, I like me a little abstract. You have circle and square pieces, and the objective of this game is to get all of your square pieces off the board. The only way you can get your square pieces off the board is if you jump a circle, your opponent's circle. And you have 2 actions on your turn, essentially. You're going to either be jumping said square over other pieces, sort of a la your checkers vibe, until you jump over a circle, and then it's done and it's taken off. When you can jump over your own pieces as well. But the other option is to place a circle on there, but you have to place a circle so that it does not go in this perimeter. It has to go on the inside. And so then you can see how that's going to be mixing, matching, interwoven, and interlocking in a checkers style vibe. And it's a quick little abstract game where, again, like I said, get all your squares off. Don't be a square though. And that's what this game is. Cornered. How much is it actually? I didn't check the price point. You can get a sticker. Well, I don't want a sticker. $20. Free shipping in the US. And there you go. He originally placed an order for $500 after his first crowdfunding campaign failed, and he's just been selling them at farmers markets and craft sales. So give it a look, see if you like abstracts. Cornered. Last up, Era of Tribes, 2nd edition, Beliefs and Betrayals expansion, $55,000 for a 4X sort of Civ, mega Civ, explorative, as well as just overall Civ upgrading style of game with some Euro-ness that is being called a little bit opaque in how you're going to be decision making in a good way, at least per some of the comments I was reading through over on Board Game Geek. And that means that a large element of this is actually the resource management that goes along with it. And this is where you're going to lose me, because this is not my type of game whatsoever, right? 4X worker placement. It's going to take you a couple hours to play. 16 different, at least in the base game, slight different asymmetric factions that you're going to be utilizing. And the best summary of things actually is if we click down here of the sequence around of how you're going to be sort of playing through this. And the important thing here I'm actually going to note is that there's 6 different end game conditions that are going to be potentially possible as you're going along. Adjusting morale, initiative based turn order that's going to be different every round, choosing which actions you want along the board in a turn by turn, round by round basis. And then if you don't choose a certain action like expansion, you get a little bit of a bonus there as well. Clean up in all of your goods and your tech trees, and rinse and repeat. Whew. I mean, again, go read some of the Board Game Geek stuff for this. Very small indie game, but sort of in the Civ, maybe isn't a ton out elsewhere like it. Again, I don't have a good sense of this one whatsoever. This is well outside of my depth. I'm not saying the explanation isn't there, but this one is one that I am just, my brain doesn't work this way. So other couple videos here, you can check it out from a preview standpoint. But it's a ton of money. I mean, right? $200, ooh, for a 4X Civ Euro building game. $76 for the base game, but if you're early enough, you can get a copy from the first time around for a little bit less, as maybe not a second edition fully. So take that for what it is. I'm going to stop talking about this one because I'm just going to make myself look stupider than I usually do in terms of the mechanics, the nuances, and everything else that's going to go along with this. So if you're looking for something, well, Civ-based, and you're looking for something to scratch that itch that hasn't done that before, maybe give this one a check out. That's it. That's the roundup. I am here week in, week out. I don't know, like 49, maybe 50 times of the year. We're getting near the end of the year, though. I mean, I got probably about a half dozen more of these before we hit the end of 2024, when I'm going to sit down and total how many games I actually covered on these crowdfunding roundups, just to be able to say, I don't know, what you think about, what, like 2,000 maybe? We'll see. So what's always interesting, though, at the time of these second comings and that sort of thing, where I didn't see it the first time around, because again, there was one even a couple weeks ago that I actually ended up backing that I never covered on the roundup, just completely flew under the radar. You know, crowd surfing on Kickstarter, just looking through those pages, it's so crowded and it's so hard to tell now with the percentages. Like, I try and have a certain cutoff or threshold, you know, on most of these videos to say it's at least X% funded, or it's got at least X thousands of dollars. So, you know, yeah. And, you know, truth be told, sometimes, like the one in here, the little abstract of only $600, sometimes I just have my own little ones I pick out too. So, it's my video, it's my channel. I just love talking about them. So that is as many games as I could find on crowdfunding that were, well, like I said, close to funding or something along those lines. I don't know. Random criteria inserted here. That's all I got. Stay classy. Have a great freaking day. Play something fun this weekend.